Pokemon have been around for over 20 years, and throughout those 20 years there's been one rule that Pokemon has never dared to break. That rule is, a Pokemon can have no more than 2 types. Now with most Pokemon that's fine and dandy and all is good in the world, but with some Pokemon, you can look at their design or take a look at their lore and it's obvious that they need a 3rd type. I'm Mike from Poketips Official, and today we're going to be talking about 5 Pokemon that need more than 2 types. Alright boys and girls, let's start this list off with Gallio. So, Gallio is an interesting Pokemon. It's the Sun Pokemon, and I'm sure when you think Sun, you think hot. Now, what type of Pokemon do you think of when you think hot? Do you think Psychic? Do you think Steel? No, you think Fire. You think Fire types. Apparently, Pokemon thinks the same thing because the move Sunny Day is a Fire-type move. So tell me, why is this thing not a Fire type? But to make things even worse, the Sun Pokemon is weak to fire. How in the world does that possibly work? You have the Sun and you're making it weak to fire? Just does not make any sense to me. Adding the fire type to Gallio would fix all of these problems. Now, I'm not saying that we have to take away Psychic or Steel from Gallio. I think those work just fine on it. I'm saying we're going to go ahead and add the Fire type to this Pokemon because this is clearly a Pokemon that needs 3 types. Now, let me explain. The Psychic type makes sense because this Pokemon is from space. When you think of other Pokemon from space, like Lunatone, Solrock, Starmie, Deoxys, they all have the Psychic type, so it's perfectly acceptable here. Now, the Steel type can be a little bit confusing, but if you dive in deep and look into Gallio's Steel typing, you'll see that the Steel type is actually a reference to alchemy. In alchemy, the lion symbolizes gold or the sun. From what I hear, the green lion swallowing the sun is an alchemic symbol for the purification of gold. Now, when you take that into account, it really does add a whole layer of meaning to make Gallio a lion and a Steel type, so I definitely do not want to mess with that there. But come on, you can't have the Sun Pokemon be weak to fire. So giving it the fire type would fix that problem. It would at least make it neutral to fire, and it would just make a lot of sense. Gallio has a lot of red in its design, it learns a fire type move by level up, and can learn plenty of fire type TMs. So I definitely think Gallio was well deserving of a spot on this list of Pokemon that need more than 2 types, because Gallio, you are a fire type, my friend, you just don't know it yet. Coming up at number 2, we have Stunfisk. So Stunfisk is classified as the trap Pokemon. Now, I'm not really sure what that's supposed to mean. Maybe Stunfisk really likes trap music. But when you look at Stunfisk, you can definitely see this thing is a fish. When you go and find it in your game, you find it when you're surfing around, you're running around the water, or you're fishing. And what other type of Pokemon do you find over there? Fish! This thing is a fish, so obviously you would think this thing would be a water type, right? But you're wrong, this thing is just ground and electric, and this is another one of those Pokemon that just has me confused on why it doesn't have the water type as well. In fact, this is a fish Pokemon that you find in the water, and it's weak to water. That must be a very painful existence. I feel so sorry for all the Stunfisk out there right now. They're just swimming around in the water, just hurting themselves because they're literally weak to water. And now I know it probably sounds like I'm hating on Stunfisk right now, but I'm not. Stunfisk is a pretty cool Pokemon, and I'm just looking out for it right now. I really like its Pokédex entry from Pokemon White that really explains why it's electric and ground type. So it says about Stunfisk that it conceals itself in the mud of the seashore. Then it waits. When prey touch it, it delivers a jolt of electricity. So it just sounds like a really cool Pokemon, but you just cannot convince me that a Pokemon that lives in the water is not a water type. On top of that, it's a fish. So Game Freak, come on, give it its 3rd type. It's a fish, it deserves to be a water type, just make it happy. And also, giving Stunfisk the water type would make it a little bit of a better Pokemon. It gets a whole bunch of water type moves that it can't really use to its fullest potential because it doesn't get the same type attack bonus that it would if it was a water type. Plus, with the water type, Stunfisk would only be weak to grass moves and ground moves, and have lots and lots of resistances, and even a nice immunity to electric, so it wouldn't even be weak to electric moves from gaining that water type. But that's enough about Stunfisk, because the next Pokemon that we're going to be talking about is Flygon. Now, poor Flygon, this guy can't really catch a break. It didn't get a Mega Evolution back in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire because Nintendo just couldn't think of a good design for it. Then, as it is right now, it's a dragon and ground type, which was unique when it first came out, but then the next generation after it, another dragon ground type Pokemon came out, and with the way things are right now, that dragon ground type is way better than Flygon could ever hope to be. So Flygon is a Pokemon that I could see having 3, maybe even 4 types. Personally, I think Flygon should just have the bug type added to it, but I could also see it going ahead and getting the flying type because A, its name is Flygon, and B, it has wings. I feel like Flygon was given the levitate ability because they didn't have the room to add the flying type to it, and it has the wings. Its name is literally Flygon, which has fly in the name, but they couldn't add the flying type because the other 2 types made a lot of sense. I'm totally okay with Flygon being a dragon type, and originally I just didn't understand where the ground type came in, but while I was doing research to talk about this thing, I found out that Flygon is actually the adult stage of a bug called the antlion, which is as terrifying as it sounds. Now, the adult stage kind of looks like a dragonfly, and so does Flygon, so I could definitely see it going ahead and getting that bug type added. But if you don't know what an antlion is, it's actually kind of an interesting creature on its own. So the baby form of the antlion kind of burrows underground and makes a pit to try and catch its prey in. And then when an unsuspecting prey, like an ant, comes walking over the pit, it will fall into the pit, and this antlion uses this like pincers and goes ahead and grabs it and tries to pull it down underground, and it's just the freakiest thing that I have ever seen. And now that I know what Flygon and its whole family is based on, I really feel like Nintendo hit the nail right on the head when they made this Pokemon. I just feel like Pokemon only being able to have 2 types is really limiting Flygon, because you look at this thing and you do see a dragonfly. This thing can obviously easily be a bug type Pokemon, and with the wings it could definitely fit into the flying family as well. Now with number 4, I'm going to be talking about another Pokemon that should be a water type. I'm noticing a common trend here. So this Pokemon is known as the Guardian of the Sea. You guessed it, this Pokemon is Lugia. So Lugia, as we all know, is a psychic and flying type. However, I remember the first time I caught this thing back in my copy of Pokemon Gold, I was shocked to find out this thing was not a water type. It's known as the Guardian of the Sea. It's found in the Whirl Islands in the Johto region, all the way at the bottom of that big watery cave. I think limiting Pokemon to only having 2 types really hurts Lugia, because it's obvious that just looking at Lugia and its whole backstory and lore, this Pokemon should obviously be related to water. Now, the Pokemon Company has faced some backlash for not making Lugia a water type. A lot of people have been asking the executives why Lugia is not a water Pokemon. So in an interview with Morimoto Shigeki, he kind of goes over and explains why Lugia is not a water type. He said that to start, the flying type was decided because Lugia has wings. So it has the appearance of a Pokemon that should be flying type, so because of Lugia's wings, it was given the flying type, which I totally understand. And Psychic type at the time was the symbol of a powerful Pokemon, because think about it, back then before that you had Mewtwo, which was an extremely powerful legendary Pokemon, the mythical Pokemon Mew, and Pokemon like Alakazam were just crazy powerful, so to make a Pokemon seem powerful, you would go ahead and give it the Psychic type. Lugia, my friend, you may not be a water type in the Pokemon games, but you're always going to be a water type in my heart. And finally, number 5, coming in at the anchor of this list, and this is gonna be funny in a few seconds when I tell you what Pokemon it is, we've got Delmise. Get it? Anchor, because it's an anchor Pokemon, the last one. I'll take myself out, I'm not funny. Anyway, this is the most perplexing Pokemon on this list, because it can definitely be 4 types, and the funny thing is, Nintendo and Game Freak realized that when they were making and designing this Pokemon for the game. Delmise's ability Steelworker basically gives it the same type attack bonus it would have if it also had the Steel type. So obviously they thought in their heads that this Pokemon should be a Steel type. And it makes sense, you know, because anchors are made out of metal, they're used to prevent boats from drifting around in the water with the currents and the winds and everything, so obviously an anchor Pokemon should be a Steel type. The grass and the ghost typing that it has already fits it perfectly, because if you look at its Pokédex entry, it says that the soul of seaweed adrift in the waves became reborn as this Pokemon, which obviously lends it to the ghost type. It's a reborn Pokemon. And the entry continues, saying it maintains itself with new infusions of seabed detritus and seaweed. And since that's basically saying this Pokemon is made out of seaweed, I can definitely understand the grass typing. But seaweed, it's an anchor in the ocean. It should also be a water type. So I can definitely see our anchor friend having 4 types, and they would all make sense: ghost, grass, water, and steel. Now, you would think giving this Pokemon 4 types would make it so it basically has no weaknesses, but that's not true. This thing will still be weak to dark, fire, and ghost, so it has some good weaknesses, but on the flip side, the other 15 types, it's either going to be immune to them or resist them. And now that sounds kind of terrifying, so I'm not too sure if we actually would want to make this happen. Although Dhelmise doesn't really have the greatest stats in the whole world, it does get a recovery move now, so this thing could be annoying to face in competitive play. Annoying or not, I think Dhelmise really deserves to have all 4 of these types. It would definitely just go well with the whole lore of Dhelmise and what it is. So my friends, that's my list of 5 Pokemon that definitely need to have more than 2 types. Now, I only hit 5 Pokemon, and there are over 800 of them now, so let me know what you guys think need more than 2 types below in the comments section. I'm really interested to hear what you have to say, and hear if you agreed or disagreed with my list. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, remember to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one.